It is the owner and general manager of your Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Kevin, Corey, Mike, good morning.
Well, we love having you on, especially to talk about the Cowboys, but there is always league things happening, and I was hoping you could shed some light on it, on the playoff situation for us. Are the owners voting on anything about neutral site playoff games or anything like that today?
Yeah, when I hang up, I will immediately go into, I'm delaying the meeting because of this show we're on.
Thank you.
But seriously, when I hang up at 11, I'll get on a call, and we're going to vote to make an accommodation for our circumstances because of the concern and what we needed to adjust because of Damar Hamlin's injuries. And so that'll be done and should be finished by noon.
I know, I'm sure sometimes these meetings can be unpredictable, but do you imagine this being a contentious vote or everyone being like, yeah, we got the plan, let's do what was announced last night?
If the teams that will be the more impacted right now, the issue is always, well, it's one thing to, in fairness, to reset the rules as you move through the season. On the other hand, make no mistake about it, everybody realizes that this was such an exceptional happening, and the impact of the just the impact, the total impact. I keep overusing the word, but the total scope of what Monday night was about calls for an adjustment.
Jerry,
in midstream, so to speak, as we're playing this season out. This is a critical time. Home field advantages that are earned by how your team has played over the year. These are all very valuable things that have no use, but really right now are considered not to be confused with sensitivity with the injuries of Hamlin at all.
Jerry, when this doesn't specifically have to do with this specific vote, but just in general in the history of Jerry Jones with the league, are you more likely to go against the grain whenever votes come up, or go with the group?
Generally, I think we find ways that have certainly assuaged my concerns, and then I'm impacted by the group, and again, this sounds like a answer of hitting all boxes, but I'm impacted by the makeup of the group, and so I can be influenced, and I look over and I say, well, I like their perspective, and they're in this particular case, you'll have people speak out that this directly impacts more than others, and I want to listen to those guys.
Now, Jerry, I said, and I've said this before, if aliens came to our planet and somehow found themselves at the Hall of Fame looking for great leaders and humans, that one of the first people that I want them to find is Darren Woodson. Now, I know your bust is in there already too, so obviously they want to check Jerry Jones out. But do you agree that Darren Woodson could save the planet if aliens had to have a discussion with him?
I'll go right along with your sentiment there, and more than sentiment. He's never wavered. He's been so consistent. Darren seemed like that the first time that he walked on the field at the Cowboys, he was the way that he is now. But he's solid, he's sensitive, but make no mistake about it, there's a tremendous Hall of Fame football player inside, apart from his demeanor and his leadership skills.
Is it safe to assume you feel the same way about the Hall of Fame worthiness of DeMarcus Ware?
Yeah, it's almost trite for me to speak about him being eligible or him being a logical choice to the Hall of Fame when we've all seen it. Anybody that has kept up with NFL and certainly kept up with the Cowboys would, in my mind, have been blind not to see that he was a Hall of Fame player when he played.
Now, Jerry, Dak he's 9-1 against Washington. His numbers against Washington are phenomenal. And I've talked about this with Mike before a number of times. In baseball, there are hitters that are just really good against certain teams, and it happens in certain sports that I don't know if it's the jersey color or what. Why do you think Dak and the Cowboys in general are so good against the NFC East with Dak Prescott?
I think it speaks to his leadership, and I've got a tongue-in-cheek when I say this. When the nation capital gets involved, which I think of leadership or following them as leaders, when the nation capital gets there, he knows how to give them some capital punishment.
Oh, I love that. That is tremendous right there. I was curious, in terms of this game and all of the relevant games to y'all's playoff seeding happening at the same time, like if the Eagles were blowing out the Giants at halftime, would y'all monitor that and then, adjust your strategy accordingly in terms of playing starters and everything?
No, that's a good question. It's a real good question, but we don't go beyond what's between the lines out there on the field at the time of the game. And in general, looking ahead at all would be specifically in the best interest of the club. You say, well, couldn't you get a little of that indication from another game that's going on? But as to how we play this game, I've never been in a situation where another game going on at the same time impacted a game you're playing in.
Jerry, I know I'm going way back in time when you were playing for Arkansas and you won a national championship. Do you get more nervous as a fan when it comes playoff time, do or die time, versus when you were at Arkansas playing for a national championship? Yes, of course. I was always more worried about getting my man or making my own physical performance or not messing up or not getting a penalty. Certainly I was aware, just all you had to do was run out on the field and you were aware that you were getting to be a part of something special. And so I just let that be a part of making me try to go a level above what I was capable of. We used to have 1,000, 2,000 people watch us practice and be 30 feet from you at practice. And I often said, I don't know that I could have played at a lesser level because that made me much better than I was. To be that close, 30 feet away from fans on a spring afternoon, make you have a spring practice as though you were in the Super Bowl. And so I was motivated by my surroundings at Arkansas.
Micah Parsons said he's going to be good to go without the wrap or kind of the club, as we talked about, on his hand. How big of an impact will that make for Micah? And then can you give us any insight onto how he lacerated his hand to begin with?
Well, first of all, yes, the club wrap that he called it, or that we call it, will give him more flexibility in being able to catch a ball and have an interception or do those type of plays. And so, yeah, it's better not to have the big on in terms of your effectiveness. No, I don't have anything to add to how he did it, but he ended up with a laceration, and so bottom line is I'm glad it's healed, and it is healed.
Jerry, you mentioned with Sean and RJ, maybe it was a couple weeks ago or last week, I was listening in, and you were talking about the pass rush, and you said you sat with Will McClay, and y'all were looking at some things technique-wise and schematically that said, okay, we can open this back up a little bit more. And I was just wondering, is there a part of coaching and part of it that says, let's not do that. Maybe let's hold out and be a little more vanilla so that when we get to the playoffs, there is an element of surprise? Or is it just every week it's all out?
No, absolutely there's adjustments. Unquestionably there's adjustments. I'm going to go way back. I'm going to go back to when Barry Switzer was head coach of the team, and it was his first camp. We hadn't played a game. And we go into training camp, and we're in the defensive room, and Barry was just observing in the defensive room. and they had what they call the 9 technique of a defensive end, and he was way outside. And they had him applying pressure or had him also covering the flat. And Barry stopped, and he said, guys, he said, I'm learning because you guys are coaches and have been in pros, and I've come from college. But he said, I have probably been to 100 coaching seminars, and I have seen that 9 technique drawn up and attempted to do what you're asking him to do. I've never seen in games or over any length of time, and I've been doing this 30 years, I've never seen that guy be able to make that play. That's going to let you down if you put that in.
We talked about this a little bit earlier in the show. Tony Pollard, 12 yards away from getting to 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. How big of a deal is that for Tony Pollard, and how big of a deal is the 1,000-yard threshold still as the schedule is expanded?
Well, I think it is really notable that you've got Zeke in our running game as well, and he's a part of our offense that has 2 really people, including himself, of course. And to me, that's notable, big time. And to step up there and have those 1,000 yards with the back sharing the load with you like Zeke really is notable. So he's talent-wise, he's certainly, this isn't an aberration. He's very capable of having that kind of production.
Last year, the Dallas Cowboys benches showed up in Washington. Do you think that that's a possibility that they show back up this year?
They've got other things on their minds other than the ball game itself, and that was the only thing that I smiled about when I saw that was I was ashamed I hadn't thought of it.
That is a great point.
That's pretty good getting in your so-called ass right there.
Now, we're talking with, as if you didn't know, we're talking with Jerry Jones right here on 105.3 The Fan. How Sam Howell will be making the start for the Commanders as opposed to Taylor Heineke, which is what we expected. How big of a deal or how difficult does that make it facing a rookie quarterback where there's not a lot of NFL tape on him yet?
Well, that is certainly the handicap is you are going to be dealing with some unknowns here, but you're also know that you're going to be going against a young player that doesn't have a lot of experience, and when you play against a player like that, you pull out your book on what do you do for players. Remember, Romo's first experiences, his first snap was he goes out and they put the rush on him. They know he's a rookie, know it's his first snap, and they put the rush on him. He throws the ball up. It goes almost straight up. I think they hit his arm. It gets intercepted right out here at our home field advantage. So you try to take advantage when you can of rookie, just generalized rookie handicaps. If we haven't been there before, you want to make it fast, and you want to make decision-making fast. One of the biggest things that a young quarterback has to do is slow it down mentally, literally, figuratively, slow the game down. Let it just kind of not be going as fast out there as the unfamiliarity causes, and just slow down. Well, obviously, everybody would take advantage of an inexperienced quarterback in any way they can like that.
Now, Jerry, I want you to go back a couple of years and try and think of this when Mike McCarthy was hired, and then look at where you are right now. You have a chance to have a franchise-tying 13th game, and I don't know if the players, if that means a lot to them. I don't know what it means to the coaching staff or you and the franchise itself, but did you have this kind of imagination that Mike McCarthy could bring this kind of stability to this Cowboys team then?
Well, let me start off by saying huge. The 13th win of the season is every reason that you could want to not have this a getting ready game for something else. 13 wins is a big deal. And I know we're playing 17 this year, but it's still a big deal. We don't have many of those in my past, obviously, as far as I don't want to use I and me, but still, I don't. And the facts are we don't have many of them. And you cast this question with Mike as the subject, and Mike McCarthy. And it's great for him to put a 13-win season in his resume. And it's great for me to put it on my general manager's
that is
resume.
Nice. Yep.
And it's just important. Now, we know what's important is it usually means you're getting in the playoffs, and now you say, well, that's important. Well, I'll tell you this. You go through the stat books and you look at coaches' records and look at team records, and there's a lot of stuff in there that's about how the franchise has done, a team has done, or a coach or a player has done that aren't playoff games. And why is all that in there? It's because it's important.
Now, we have talked a lot throughout the week about the importance of this game against the Commanders, but there is another important game happening in the Metroplex the next day as TCU goes for a national championship. While the team is involved with Sunday's game, how excited are you for Monday and TCU getting a shot at a national title?
I'm so impressed and proud of what TCU is doing. The fact that they're here is just magical, and I don't mean it to be rare in that sense. I mean it to be from the standpoint of having come as far as this team and this school has come. When you look at the lay of the land today, this is more impressive than if it had been done at any time in my mind in college football for TCU, a school of that enrollment, a school of that stature, stepping up here and having a chance to win the national championship in one ball game, one ball going the right way. This is particularly impressive now that you have the ability of these players to move around and have other incentives than have ever been there before for, let's say, wealthier teams. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Whether it be tradition or whether it be financial. But to be able to sit up here in the face of the way the game is today in college and be lining up and taking a kickoff to win the national championship is a huge deal for TCU.
Yeah, and for them to be doing it at SoFi Stadium, that's got to have a little bit of a warm place for you too, huh?
Well, it does, and that's big time. And we thought when that stadium was being built, entertainment capital of the world, and we had in mind really for our game, certainly football, we had in mind this type of showing. And it's going to get it, all the glitz and glamour of everything about football that you can have today. But the great thing, again, is that this team, TCU team, is no joke. Boy, it is a sound team that can win this game. And do they have an uphill battle? They do. But should they do it, it'll be one of the real sports stories of would be one of the sports stories of my time.
Jerry, I don't know if you happen to see that Washington did unveil a new mascot, and it is Tutty. Have you gotten to see Tutty? And I wanted to get your thoughts on Tutty so far.
I didn't. No, I haven't been introduced officially. I guess I'll get it up there. You know, it's a great tradition between Rowdy and the Washington mascot. One of the first characters I met was the Washington mascot when I became a part of the Dallas Cowboys. And by the way, he came when we lost not Rowdy, but when we lost Crazy Ray, and which was more than a mascot in my mind. But boy, I love that relationship between Crazy Ray and the Washington mascot. And if you could get one going like that between us and the Commanders again, that would be good.
Well, we appreciate your time as always, and if you want to call us back after the vote, obviously, we'd be glad to take your call.
It looks pretty good, pretty solid. What you're reading about right now. It'd be surprising not to see it go that way.
All right, excellent.
Fantastic.
Appreciate it very much, good sir.
Bye.